best in radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
It's Kerry Lutz, financialsurvivalnetwork.com, and it's time for another Triple Lutz Report. This is episode 341. The date is March 12th, 2014. Here's why the election of Comrade DeBlasio is so important and why it's going to be so destructive to you New Yorkers, to New York City, why you're really going to suffer, and why it's going to mean the end of unionism. I know all you union guys are celebrating. Happy days are here again. You've got somebody who's going to do your bidding, who's going to follow your orders, but the party is not going to last. Yeah, you'll have fun for a couple of years, but eventually the city's going to go bust. And here's the reason. According to a study by the Center for an Urban Future, they did an analysis. The city is going to require almost $50 billion to overhaul its outdated infrastructure over the next 5 years. And they're calling on Comrade DeBlasio to invest in infrastructure and focus on repairs, and recommends a toll on the now free East River bridges and residential parking permits. So taxes are the way. God forbid you should cut these outrageous union wages and benefits to the city workers who their dedication and motivation and their, the amount that they actually work on behalf of the city is limited. You have this thing, the Wicks law, which drives up the cost of city construction projects and infrastructure projects to about double or triple what they should otherwise be. No, they don't address any of that, of course. And it says that most of the city's roads, bridges, subways, and schools are more than 50 years old. Let's get rid of the city schools. There's not much learning going on there anyway. Most of these kids come out illiterate. What does Comrade DeBlasio want to do? He wants to have pre-K, universal pre-K, yet another monumental waste of money. But that's the Comrade. So most of these places are more than 50 years old, and over 1,000 plus miles of water mains were built more than a century ago. And it says there could be a water main break in Lower Manhattan and our engineers won't be able to find it, said city planner Alexander Garvin in the report. And just last year alone, there were over 400 water main breaks in New York City. The report also says that over 25% of the subway signal system is over 70 years old, and its subway shops and repair yards are an average of 90 years old. But that's not exactly accurate, because while the structures themselves might be 90 years old, the tools, the facilities have definitely been upgraded in the past 90 years. Come on, let's get real here. It also notes that many stations have broken tiles, leaking roofs, and flaking paint, a step up from the graffiti and track fire-plagued system in the 80s, but a far cry from Tokyo or Seoul's newer subway systems. An MTA spokesman said the agency has invested some $90 billion in infrastructure over the past 30 years and has spent $6 billion modernizing its signal system over the past 8 years. And it does show, if they had just privatized the darn thing, the results would have been so much better. But don't expect sanity to prevail in a socialist paradise like New York City. Just is not going to happen. Interestingly enough, Brooklyn roads were rated the best, with almost 75% considered in good condition. while less than 60% of Manhattan and Staten Island roads were considered good, according to the report. This is from the New York Post. There's a point to my ruminations here, and that is that as long as the unions are running the show, as long as the unions can pretty much dictate the way in which the work gets done, the inefficient manner, and that they, I remember one time they followed some contractors who were doing some work, and when they went out for beer, they took a front-end loader, a backhoe, and they drove it to a store to pick up a case of beer, which they shouldn't have been drinking on the job anyway. But it cost like $100 for them to take this backhoe to go pick up a case of beer. And that's what it's like. These projects take many, many years longer than they ever should to complete. And that's because the unions are unaccountable, and bribery, the corruption involved in it, alleged. It's just disgusting, and we all pay the price for it. Contrast it to the southern states. They definitely work slower down here for sure, but they don't have unions standing in the way. Work is done at a much lower cost. It's done much faster, and things just get done much better. Quality of the workmanship. You know, you go up to Connecticut and you watch the way they do their highways, and there's just a bunch of guys standing around doing absolutely nothing for years. It's a miracle anything gets done in that state. So the fact is, if they took all of the social spending and said to those people who are receiving it, you know what, you got to go work on infrastructure, you got to go clean those subways, a lot of which Giuliani was doing during his tenure as mayor, I think more would get done. But this is the world in which we live. It's going to get worse, not better. So you better be prepared for it. One of the reasons that I was only too happy to move out of the socialist paradise, otherwise known as New York. So for you people who are paranoid, who believe that the NSA is spying on your computer, people like me, who are sure of it but can never prove it, I'm positive. Well, the NSA is using Facebook to hack into your computer. The Snowden vault of government secrets. The NSA is breaking into potentially millions of computers worldwide, infecting them with malware implants as part of an effort that is increasingly relying on automated systems and not human oversight, according to a First Look media report that was published Wednesday. And NSA is pretending to be Facebook to get the job done. In some cases, NSA masqueraded as a fake Facebook server, using social media site as a launching pad to infect the target's computer, exfiltrate, that's an interesting word, files from a hard drive. And Glenn Greenwald, who was basically Snowden's go-to guy, they use it as an intercept channel, and they're doing this stuff. It's pretty darn remarkable that this could be going on. And it's also sent out spam emails laced with malware, and it can be tailored to covertly record from a computer's microphone and take snapshots with its webcam. And the hacking systems have also enabled the NSA to launch cyber attacks by corrupting and disrupting file downloads or denying access to websites. And, it's weird because you wonder when your computer's screwing up. Am I imagining this? Is it just a glitch in the technology or the operating system? Maybe there's really something wrong with my computer, or is the NSA out to get me? I can't really be that important. They couldn't really care less about me, could they? I'm just imagining this stuff. It really doesn't make any difference. I'm a nobody. We're all nobodies. I mean, there's important people out there. There's terrorists. There's Iranian terrorists. They're hijacking planes and blowing them up. Why do they care about me? They couldn't care less about me, could they? It can't be true, could it? And yet, here we are, mass surveillance. They're watching you, they're watching me, and we see that no target is too insignificant for the government to watch. So Facebook, of course, denied any knowledge of any of this and said that its site is now protected against such attacks. But the company suggested that if the allegations are true, other social networks could also have been compromised. And spokesman from Facebook said, "We have no evidence of this alleged activity." This is what they told the National Journal. And in any case, this method of network-level disruption does not work for traffic carried over HTTPS, which Facebook finished integrating by default last year. So if you want to see if that's happening or not, you just look up at the address bar and it'll tell you if it's using HTTPS. That's the secure protocol on the internet. I don't know. All that stuff worries me, but there's an article. Don't worry, Google is out there protecting you. Google is encrypting search worldwide, which is supposedly bad news for the NSA in China, although with that huge data mining operation that Google has planned, that's opened in Utah, but they're supposedly having problems with it, which could be disinformation that they're planting with the media. So I don't know. I assume that they've broken the encryption algorithms, but who knows? But we'll talk more about it up next on the FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. I'm Kerry Lutz.
Urgent alert. Ex-Secret Service agent claims it's worse than people know. One of Obama's former Secret Service agents recently smelled a rat. What he discovered inside our government was so devastating, he only saw one option. He quit. What's worse, he fears what he found could affect your job, your neighborhood, and most importantly, your family, very soon. It's worse than people know, he said in a recent interview, and I'm not trying to scare you either. We too share his concerns. This is why we've devoted the better part of 3 years collecting solutions for nearly all problems created by intrusive governments, and we've succeeded. Go to hiddensecrets1.info to check out all the details. Our panel of insiders have devised a legal but sneaky set of solutions to help you reclaim your privacy from the NSA, opt out of Obamacare, and make a bundle from little-known investments and small business opportunities. Simply visit hiddensecrets1.info. That's hiddensecrets1.info.
We are back. Kerry Lutz, FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. This is Triple Lutz 341. So Obamacare, the news just can't be any worse for it. You had a special election in the state of Florida. That's where I happen to live, as you know. And it was for this guy, Billy Young's seat. He was some guy who'd been in the Congress forever. He was a Republican from St. Petersburg, a typical guy who stayed in Congress too long. He was all about earmarks and, bringing home the bacon. It was a district that the big guy in the White House carried by pretty good margins in 2008 and 2012. The guy who was running for it was a guy by the name of Dave Jolly. He won by 1.5 points over this gal, Alex Sink. She had run for governor of Florida, lost against Rick Scott, and this became a referendum on Obamacare, and there was a libertarian running. He picked up about 5% of the vote. We talked about this with our good friend John LeBoutillier, former congressman from New York, and it was a real interesting election because basically this guy, Dave Jolly, is pretty inferior candidate, ran a real bad campaign. A lot of outside money came in, and they just slammed this Alex Sink on Obamacare. And what do you do when you're a Democrat and they've staked the entire future of your party on Obamacare. And you know I'm a libertarian. I despise political parties. Libertarians really aren't a political party. It's more of a philosophy, a movement, a state of mind, which enables you to look at all other political parties with complete disdain and disgust and moral superiority. Because you're a libertarian, you never have to worry about other libertarians getting elected, because it just never is going to happen. So, hey, that's the good thing. So we look at the results of this election, where the money they were outspending Jolly, and he is a jolly good fellow. Ha ha ha. They outspent him 3-1, the Democrats, and they still lost. And they were even got Bill Clinton, brought him in to stump for sink, and they still lost. I'm sure they got all the dead people voting for her, and they still lost. So what do we learn from it? That the resentment, the anger, the rage towards Obamacare is just huge. And I've been telling you this for months. You know it. And I just know the people that I talk to, everybody is up in arms about it. And why? It's real simple. Why? Because this thing is not about health care. It's about control. They aren't listening to you. And it's done so much harm. And even now, they say that 6 million people have signed up. But in reality, the number of people who've actually paid for Obamacare looks like it's closer to about 4 million. And the coverage that you're getting is distinctly inferior. The cost is more than double what you were paying in the past. So how could anybody be happy with this coverage? And yet the Democrats can't admit that they were wrong. They've invested tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayers' money and money that's been created out of thin air into this program. And nobody is happy with it. The doctors are unhappy. The businesses are unhappy. The patients are unhappy. Everyone is unhappy with it. And then that brilliant woman there, Catherine Sebelius, Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, you know that she wants to retire. She looks like she's aged about 20 years in the past 6 months, or the past year that the thing came out. You know she wants to leave in the worst possible way. And they probably told her, if you leave, man, you will never work in this town again. And she just looks so awful, man. What they've done to her is just out and out criminal. And so she can't leave. She's stuck there. And what can she do? So it just keeps getting worse and worse. And this election is really going to be bad. It's just going to be one of those wave elections. And what are people going to get? They already know that they're going to bring they're going to fire the Democrats. They're going to get a Republican Senate. And then what? They're not going to do anything. They have no vision other than that they're going to fight Obamacare. Obama will start vetoing bills. And then what? They aren't going to reform the IRS. The IRS will continue to snoop and attack opponents of the big guy in the White House. So what? There's no vision. There's no leadership on either side of the aisle. So it's just really a protest vote that people are putting forth here that they know already going into it. This is really a cynical and defeatist election. But if you're still voting, unlike me, I mean, I stopped voting years ago. I don't see any point to voting, because what's the point? And the problem that we have here is just, it's becoming more and more obvious to all of you. It can't be solved politically unless you fire all these guys and bring in a totally fresh new team. I mean, will they impeach Obama? Would that make a difference? Who knows? I seriously doubt that anything like that is ever going to happen. I just don't think anyone has the appetite for it. But hey, maybe they'll impeach Chris Christie as governor of New Jersey, right? You see that one happening? More chance of that, but take your pick. Republicans will sweep. I doubt it's going to matter. On a lighter note here, so what about the war on e-cigarettes? You know, e-cigarette seems to me to be a pretty good technological response to the problem of cigarette smoking. Personally, I quit smoking cigarettes when I was 19 or 20. Haven't picked up another cigarette since. I do, on occasion, smoke cigars, particularly quality cigars. Listener out there, Al, was nice enough to once send me a cigar. It was from a forbidden land. It was delicious. So anyone, this article is from National Review, and it says, anyone with a modicum of knowledge regarding public health will agree that the most important, devastating, preventable threat to human health we face is cigarettes. I wouldn't quite go that far, but it certainly is preventable. Okay? It's a lifestyle threat to health, meaning a lifestyle threat to health is one that if you change your lifestyle, you can avoid the risks that are attendant with that particular means of living. And the fact of the matter is that if you stop smoking, your risks of all sorts of different diseases, you know them all, I don't need to go into them, go down. And the drugs that are out there, nicotine patches, Nicorette gum, really don't work very well. Less than 10% of people succeed with that help. Over the past few years, new technology has been taken up by millions seeking to end their addiction to cigarettes. We're talking e-cigs, also known as ENDS, electronic nicotine delivery systems. And many experts in tobacco control believe e-cigs present the best hope of improving the unacceptably low rate of successful cessation among addicted smokers. And yet, in a perverse inversion of public health policy, these devices are facing relentless opposition, not from big tobacco, who have jumped on the bandwagon, but from public health officials, like in New York, where they banned them from smoking in the workplace or in public buildings. And it makes no sense whatsoever to be doing this, because there's no chance of getting ill from secondhand inhalation of vapor. Makes no sense. And U.S. 40 million smokers, 40 million people smoking cigarettes, 480,000 die from the habit each year. Over half of the 40 million are going to die prematurely because of cigarette smoke. So it just proves that the government's desire to help you, protect you from yourself is false. Perhaps what it's really about is they don't want you to quit smoking because they need the revenue from taxes on the cigarettes that are sold in the stores to keep these giant governmental bureaucracies going. Maybe that's what it's really all about, and it's all just a fraud in the name of protecting you, the citizen. That's what I believe. What do you think? Send me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Love to hear your opinion, kl@kerrylutz.com. It's been another Triple Lutz report. Kerry Lutz signing off.
Warning, you might live in a no-constitution zone. It's the shocking story you won't see on TV. Depending upon where you live in the United States, you may no longer have constitutional rights. Politicians are quietly squeezing the middle class to micromanage you and extract your wealth. Want to see how? Watch the free video at noconstitutionzone.com. Soon, you'll have the last laugh by using these cultural contraband tricks and profit like a king. That's noconstitutionzone.com.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.